You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, here we go. Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Nick Alberga, Dave Pagnotta. This show, as mentioned, is a presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. What's going on, Dave?
How are you? Weekend?
It was good. I'll be honest. It's been difficult just because of everything that transpired in Minnesota. It's not a laughing matter. I know you didn't know we were going to talk about this, but it's been tough to come to grips with what happened to Jessie Pierce and her lovely kids. And it hit harder for me because I was talking to her like 2-3 days prior just about the Leafs Wild game. And next thing you know, she's gone. And just such a vibrant personality in that market. I want to dedicate today's podcast to her. But it just really, for me, again, puts life into perspective that, yeah, we talk about hockey and, yeah, we piss each other off and we complain and mouth off to each other. But there's more to life than just covering hockey. And, again, this is going to hurt for a long, long time, man.
Hockey is it seems huge, right? It seems big. It's a very small world. It's a very small community, and just an absolute tragedy what occurred. And because of how word spreads, kind of quickly, and you hear rumors about things early on in the morning. The first text I got about 6 something. And people finding out, players finding out, others around the league, and definitely a heartbreaking scenario, a heartbreaking situation. I can't imagine what that face is now going through. Absolute tragedy.
Very well said. We're going to have you reconnect here. Your Wi-Fi is a bit wonky, so we'll have Dave reconnect here. In the meantime, I'll say our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. And, I thought it was important to kick off the show that way. Just something that hit really hard for me, obviously, with her 3 children, family, dog. I mean, you just think about the people involved. All I could think about yesterday and the last couple of days was just like everybody affected in her immediate family. How does her husband feel right now? Where your life, your entire life gone in one fell swoop. And I think if there's one thing you can learn from this as a human being, just hug your loved ones. And don't take life for granted, because it can change in one fell swoop. So I wanted to dedicate today's podcast to Jessie Pierce off the top. It's a difficult transition, but I just thought it was important to start the show that way. So the Maple Leafs, again, proving that this is just an escape from real life sometimes, covering this sport and, being very hypocritical of the sport. But the Maple Leafs, since the Olympic break, Dave, now 2-8-2. 32 of 32 in the NHL. And I think we're all at a point, players, coaches, everybody involved, can the season end already?
I was there for Friday's game, just walking around, talking to a few people in the organization, throughout the organization. And it certainly looks like there are a lot of people down and frustrated about this season. Certainly. Like, a lot of people have, I don't want to say checked out yet, because there's still a lot of runway, but it's looking like that. And look, I know this team, the expectations were higher this season. I thought they were going to be a wild card team. They thought they'd be in a much better position. But it certainly looks like everybody's just overly frustrated with this year, Nick. And it's just let's just get these last 12 games out of the way and just call it a summer or season, excuse me.
Yeah, it's still hard to fathom where this team was at prior to the Olympic break, feeling pretty good about themselves. They won in Vancouver via the shootout. They were probably the better team there. They win in Calgary. Very impressive effort in Edmonton. And then for some reason, they come back from that Olympic break and they're just nothing, absolutely nothing. They go on that mega losing skid. And I just recited the numbers, not pretty, 2-8-2, but you still look at the
Yeah.
standings and the schedule, and there's still 11 games remaining. And, they do pick up a point against Carolina on Friday. They played okay in that game, but Nikishin wins it, of course, in OT. And then another Battle of Ontario where they're outshot 44-14. And the most noticeable thing for me has been Craig Berube and the way he's handled the media the last couple of games here. For me, he strikes me as a guy who knows his fate. He knows he's finished. And I know it's a cliche, but it feels like he's coaching for his next job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think he understands the writings on the wall. Like, I don't know if he's been given any indication, or anything like that, but he's not a dummy. He knows what's going on. He can read the leaves, and with everything going on with everything that's gone on this season to this point, if there are going to be changes, it looks like off the ice. I mean, it looks like he's going to be the one that's going to have to fall on that sword, and then they kind of go from there. Where they go, I have no idea, and it's way too premature to start figuring things out in that respect. But it definitely looks like he understands where he's at. He understands where the team's at, and I think everybody understands that there's a pretty good chance he will not be back next season.
Makes sense. We got Carter Hutton coming on today's podcast in about 10 or so minutes here, and it's perfect timing. I booked him last week, but the crease was a massive center of focus over the weekend, from Joseph Woll, the comments with Craig Berube, Anthony Stolarz taking a puck off the net, going to hospital for imaging, taking the plane back. We see Dennis Hill to be recalled on an emergency basis earlier today. So a lot of moving parts, and who better than a former NHL goalie to discuss everything, right?
Right, exactly. Give us that perspective. Where's the mindset at? Right? Like, first of all, where's the mindset at when you're done and the season's over? So where's that mindset in the crease for you? And then when you're put into pressure cooker situations where, you're getting hurt or you have to step in because your guy's hurt, how do you get into that moment and how do you get your mind all set for it, getting into game mode? So nice little addition by you.
I want to know the dynamic between the head coach and the crease. And when you hear your name called out in the media, and obviously it was like an indirect shot, but still we all know, reading in between the lines, what he meant, how that feels as a goalie. How does Joseph Woll feel? Not to mention, he wasn't supposed to start on Saturday. Then Stolarz leaves that game. He's thrown into the fire. And it just seems like relationships are souring across the board when it comes to the head coach and the players. And it usually goes that way before the inevitable after the season, of course.
Yeah, and you see it. Like you could tell based on, his Chiefs comments for the last month that it's been rocky because the guys aren't listening. And from his side of it, like, he looks at it and he goes, well, these guys aren't listening to what I'm trying to tell them. And they're not executing in the manner in which I need them to execute. And this is where we're at. Good job. Well, on the other side, the players are going, well, he's not putting us in a position where we feel we can succeed. He's not aligning us and forming us or creating the formation that works for us. And, it's like you're beating a dead horse on both ends with both ends of the stick here. Like this, it just doesn't seem like, with the roster that's in place and the pieces that are here, I think, before I get to, I'll preface this. I think Craig Berube is a very good head coach. I just think he's the wrong coach for this group right now. And a lot of it has to do with roster formation, and a lot of that lies on Brad Treliving, the GM. But you've got to be able to make adjustments, and they haven't been able to make adjustments on that side of things. The players haven't, coaching staff hasn't. So easiest change, bring in a new coach. That's probably
what are the chances. One of the three men I had on this podcast last week, one of the three is the head coach, the next head coach of the Maple Leafs. What are the chances?
I'm not sure what direction they go in, right? I saw I didn't see all three interviews, but I saw the one with Pete DeBoer, and I see him being a guy that's going to want to be somewhere where he's that finishing piece.
Edmonton.
We've got the right, we've got the right roster in place. We need that guy to push us over the edge to win a Stanley Cup. I feel like he's that kind of guy. Or that's the environment that he wants that he would prefer to be in versus a team like Toronto, which, let's be honest, it's going to be, the goal is make the playoffs next year. The goal should be compete for a Stanley Cup. Everybody's going to tell you that, but let's be real.
Yeah.
a lot of shit that has to happen this summer just to get back into the playoffs. Wonder if they go, like, if they do make a change, I wonder if they go the younger route. Like, I know we had the first year coach before, but do you go back to a familiar face in that organization? Do you go to Manny Malhotra? Do you explore that? Because I can tell you, he's on the radars of a few different teams out there looking to either make or considering a coaching change for next season. And with what he's done in Abbotsford and how we've seen first year coaches this season, Marco Sturm in Boston, Dan Muse in Pittsburgh, look how well that's worked out for them. There are some teams looking at this going, well, first year coach, right guy, that might be a good fit. And I think Malhotra might be a guy that, whether it's the Leafs, I know there are going to be other teams that are going to look at him. If whether the Leafs are part of that, we'll have to wait and see. But I could certainly see that being a potential target if they do go first year type of guy.
Two-prong response to that. Jay McKee, I think, out of Brantford, I think is going to get some traction this summer. At least he's looking to get some traction here. And the other one would be David Carl. Do we think there's any chance? Like, it feels like every summer we have this conversation. Will he leave? No?
Forget about Carl. I think he signed like a 3, 4, 5-year contract or something like that last summer. He's not going anywhere yet.
Okay.
So
it's going to be interesting. You're right. Because again, we all think Berube's done, but naturally, who would that replacement be? And I mean, we've interviewed half those replacement options on this podcast. Something to monitor moving forward at the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to check out theleafsnation.com. This segment is brought to you by Sunwing. Sunwing Vacations helps Canadians save more so they can do more on and off the resort. With all-inclusive packages that bundle flights, hotels, and transfers into one easy price, included added perks such as complimentary airport transfers. And Sunwing has partnered with Ocean by H10 Hotels. Ocean by H10 Hotels offer all-inclusive beachfront resorts designed for easy, relaxing getaways. For more information and a book, check out sunwing.ca. And that's exactly what we did back in February when we went to Jamaica, right?
Yes, sir. That was a fun trip. It was a fun trip. Yeah, we did book it off Sunwing even before they jumped on. So coincidental, but that was fun. Easy experience too in making that all happen.
I was going to say the best part about it, how easy that experience was with our friends over at Sunwing. So I think you look at this week for the Maple Leafs playing out the slate, looking back at the weekend, they get 1 point out of a possible 4. But as mentioned, so many different storylines with the crease. Firstly, what did you make of the comments regarding Joseph Woll? I think coaches do this more than you think. I think every coach I speak to wants one more save than they actually get. But Berube's talk after the game, he's played well, but like tonight in the end, I know we need a save, whether it's the OT or one of the breakaways. You just need a big save there. I didn't think as much about it as most people, and I think because of this predicament, this scenario the Maple Leafs are in, it was a bigger story than it needed to be.
Yeah, I think so. I'd agree. I'd agree with that. I mean, it's tough because when you going to call out everybody else, like you'd have to pretty much call out everybody else. So you pick the guy that could probably handle it the best. And I've got to imagine, and we'll ask Hutz this. Like, this is one of the things that I want him to clarify, because I think the goalies and the goalie coach. That's where the relationship is, and the head coach is almost secondary, at least from a lot of the goalies that I've talked to, where it's that relationship with the goalie coach that is basically like that's the head coach type of bond. And Joe's got a pretty, he's got pretty thick skin. I think he understands where things are at, as well. And just personality wise, he's the type of guy where it's not going to bother him too much. And I wonder if maybe that's the approach that Berube took versus calling out some of the other guys that have not looked great the last little bit, which is like half the team, unfortunately. So I don't know. I mean, it was an interesting approach. And it was probably just first thing that popped into his mind, and that's why he kind of said it. But if you're sitting here blaming the goaltending, which has probably been your strongest suit this season, it's probably not the way I would go about it personally.
To me, he has come off way more blunt than he typically is, which again gets back to the greater point that I think he knows the writing's on the wall. He's been around long enough to comprehend the scenario he finds himself in, but I think
and
he
it's added
does
frustration.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I think that added frustration just boils over, right? You're like, fuck, again? Like, this is the same problem we're having again. Fine. I'm just going to tell it like it is, because clearly what I'm saying behind closed doors isn't resonating. So I might as well say it publicly, and maybe these guys get embarrassed enough that they actually listen to it. Probably not the case, because it hasn't happened, but because they're still playing like, the way they are. But I mean, at this point, if you're the coach, you just, who gives a shit? Just you lay it out there, because it's not resonating.
Do you know how many years Berube has left on his deal? Is it 2?
I think it's 2.
Yeah,
I believe 4-year contract.
I think it was a 4-year deal, but I'm fascinated they didn't use the card of firing the coach this year. Like we've talked about this before. Like, what was the one big pickup they made was a waiver wire addition in Troy Stetcher. And I know LA's not a good example because they're banged up and injuries a massive concern, especially with Fiala there. But you look specifically at Columbus, what that coaching change has done for that team. I don't know why they didn't go to that. And I know there's various options who are available. Some might not want to go to you. Guy like DeBoer was over in Europe for a good chunk of time. But why do you think they didn't elect to go that route with the coaching change? Because for me, it was evident way back in November was time for a change.
I think it's the recognition internally that they don't have the pieces. Right? Like, dude, I think that's just straight up. Like, how long have I said this? I've said this all freaking season. You have 4 top 6 forwards. That's not good. Your mid 6, your bottom 6, excuse me, is supposed to be a lot deeper. They're not working. The pieces you've brought in haven't worked in the manner in which you anticipated them. The decors regressed a little bit. Goaltending's fine. Decors regressed a little bit. So where does that fall? That falls on the GM. You're not bringing in the pieces that work for the coach. You don't have enough ammunition. And sure, you can change the coach, but if they believe he's a good head coach, and I believe they do, and I believe he is, then why would you make that change if you're not giving him the right pieces to work with? So I think that's kind of what factored into Toronto not making a decision earlier on in the season, or just in season in general, is because, this could be a nice little cop-out, okay, look, everybody, we're trying to do something, but the next guy's going to come in with the same group of guys, and it doesn't work. So ultimately, that's in management's hands, and that's what they have to figure out, is what's the right dynamic, what are the right pieces that we need here in order to make this work, and what pieces do we need to move out? Like, that's all being discussed now going into the offseason. But I think during the year, we don't have the right pieces in place. We think he's a good head coach. We're going to make a change for what? For the next guy to do the exact same thing? Maybe we win 2 games right out of the gate, and then it's going to be the status quo. So I think that's a big part of why they didn't make any coaching change this season, because it's still the same, I don't know, whatever freaking term you want to use. These are still the same assets that you got to execute with, regardless of who the head coach is. They don't have the right pieces.
I'm still waiting for that DNA change. There hasn't been a DNA change to this team. It's the exact same replica edition of the previous decade. But you heard anything further on Tree Living Safety as GM?
No, it's the same thing. I mean, nobody is. So I haven't been told anything one way or another. I've been led to believe he's sticking around, but with definitiveness, I've not been told yes, or I've not been told no. What I do know, and I checked in on this on Friday when I was at the game with you, that nobody up top is talking at all. He has not been given an indication one way or another if he's going to be brought back, if they're going to discuss an extension because he's going to be entering the final year of his contract. Hasn't been given an indication that this might be the end of the road. So he is moving forward, and has been moving forward as if he's sticking around, which is why, he handled the trade deadline and was allowed to. He's going out there actively signing, free agents to bring in college kids, to bring into the system. And he wants to stay. He wants to be the guy that steers this back in the right direction. And again, I haven't been told by anybody within the organization above that position, Tree's position, because nobody is talking to anybody. So if there is a change, it would surprise some people. But I don't think anybody would be given that indication until the season ends either way.
I think my gut's right there with you where Berube is toast and I think Tree Living stays. Is that the feel you get? Because we've both been there at the game, man. Like there's been some people who have said, I wouldn't be shocked if both guys come back, one guy leaves, both guys leave. Like it really feels like it's up in the air. And to your point, it's leaky sealed where nobody's talking right now. So nobody has any indication of where this thing's headed.
Yeah, no, nobody, literally. And maybe Keith Pelly's made his decision. He's not telling anybody. He's going to wait. But again, one way or another. Now, again, where it gets a little bit interesting is if they do keep him around. If they do say, "Yep, we're rolling with you. You still got the keys to this ship." As I said, he's going to be entering the final year of his contract. I would imagine he's going to want some security, and like it's got to go one way or the other. Either we believe in this plan, so we're going to extend you, or we're not sure, so peace out. Like it's going to be it's effectively going to be one way or the other here. But no one's been given any indication at all on either front, and they haven't talked about it on that side. So we got to wait.
Yeah, the waiting game continues in this market at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Of course, we're decompressing after a very difficult weekend for the Maple Leafs yet again, 1 point in the last 4 games. And the goaltending, the crease under scrutiny again as you bring in former NHL goaltender. It's Carter Hutton. Huts, thanks for doing this. So Berube says we need a save as a former goalie. Is that fair, or is that throwing Joseph Woll under the bus in your opinion?
Well, I think we need some defense too, as well, my man. It's been a rough go, and it feels like it's a little late to the party when you think about it, the way that it's been, the way this season has been. And I think Joseph Woll hasn't been totally unbelievable by any means, but like, I just think going to the media is such an ugly look, right? And I feel for Chief. I feel like this year's been a mess, but I also feel like what's gone on can go on behind closed doors. So that's kind of my take on it. And I don't think there's a lot of problems. I even look at like the Easton Cowan situation. Like he's a young guy, like that can impact him a lot more than just like some petty thing you could do behind closed doors to him. And I feel for Chief, right? It hasn't gone well. He's a player's coach. He's a guy that demands a lot. And you have a group that just hasn't responded. And you could say it's the system. You could say it's whatever. But at the end of the day, this is the group of core players that have been through so many coaches, a general manager, so many different scenarios. At what point is it on, the locker room and the way that the team plays?
Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of these guys got to look within here to try to figure things out. Let's clarify this for me. As a goalie, your relationship is stronger to a certain extent with your goalie coach versus the head coach. Is that accurate to say?
Well, I don't know. Stronger is the word to like. I get the question. I think at times the goalie coach is like that buffer zone, Dave, where like the head coach is going to be the guy that like when your goalie gives up a shit goal, he's going to go into the coach's room and be like, "This guy sucks. Get rid of him. He can't make a save." And then the goalie coach comes in and he's kind of neutralized it. He's like, I'm going to meet you with some common sense theory that this is okay. There's bad goals that happen. And I think he becomes like a buffer zone to protect you from like the emotions of the riding highs. And it reminds me of when I played in St. Louis. Steve Thomas, former Leaf, obviously stumped the OT champ. He was our assistant or associate coach. I forget what his job was. I remember him coming down after a game. We beat Philly 4-2, and Dougie Armstrong was going nuts. He's like, get Hutton out of the net. He sucks. He's brutal. After the first period, a couple goals. Goalie coach, assistant coach, calm the waters. We go on to win the game. I played well. It's just one of those things that's more emotional, right? They don't see everything that goes into it. They just see a stat line. They just see, well, he's given up 2 on 8 shots. Get me a goalie that's going to give up 2 on 28 shots. And again, I think that's the ebbs and flows of a season. And I think good goalie coaches are huge just for like the psyche of a head coach as well, not just the X's and O's of what the goalie does. So at times they're almost like a sports psychologist to their goalie and to their head coaches.
So if you're Joey Woll, what's your reaction when you hear that post game? Like, is it motivation, frustration? Do you typically know it's coming too, or no?
Yeah, it's coming in a sense, right? I guess like the way this season has gone, it's like you wish this stuff would have happened earlier, and it did happen early. I was looking back to actually when I think the last time I was on with you guys, we were talking about the same thing, about the same, him calling out the goalies and him, being through this situation. So I think for Joseph Woll, he's not a rookie anymore, right? As though I think sometimes we want to treat him with white gloves, and he's the future, and we hope that he becomes that. And this year was kind of a bit of an outlier with the way things went for Stolarz. But that being said, like this is the inconvenient truth of being a goalie. If you don't like it, then you got to kind of move on. And now you're in a market where there is going to be high praise when things go well, and when things don't go well, it's going to be this way, and it's going to be tough. It just sucks in the sense, I think, when your head coach does it publicly to the media. I think this could be something where inside a locker room or inside a closed door meeting, you're like, hey, like, whoa, you suck tonight. You got to be better. And if that's your opinion, you can bump heads on topics, but it's much easier to do that when you keep the narrative out of there with the media.
So obviously Woll had to come in and play back-to-back this Saturday in Ottawa because Stolarz took that Willie shot in the neck. First of all, like, how scary is that to see as a goalie, former goalie? And then that like this area, like how vulnerable is it? And has that, like, I assume you're not thinking about it like 24/6 because you're obviously, trying to make saves, you're trying to get ready for the game, but does that creep into your mind, or how vulnerable is that position, or when you see injuries like that, what do you think?
Depends on who you are and the way you prepare yourself with the way you're protected. Like, so for me, call me a wuss or call me whatever you want. I used to have a beefed up neck guard, and then I'd actually, on my helmet, I had like an extra dangler as well while I played. And then like sometimes in practice, the dangler would break, and then I would feel so obstructed, like not obstructed, that's not the right word to put it. I would feel so vulnerable to like shots hitting me in weird places. But then you look at certain goalies and they have a ton of neck showing. It's something that I always found unique, where usually on those straight on shots, you're quick enough, and with the way that your chest protector moves, you're able to like elevate and your head's kind of protected. My concern always was when it was a broken play, where maybe I'm out of position and I'm stretching, and next thing you know, something's exposed, you catch a puck in the neck, and then you get hit once there, it becomes trouble. So it's obviously a tough situation. Like William Nylander obviously doesn't want to buzz the tower there on his starting goalie that night. And for Anthony Stolarz, maybe it's something he has to adjust in his equipment, because it's something that it sucks, but it shouldn't happen. This is the NHL. You shouldn't be getting a hit with a shot in warmups. That totally kills you. So I kind of err on the side of like the goalie making the mistake here. You're a paid professional to get hit with pucks. You shouldn't be able to get hurt when it's just a warm-up.
This is a good beer league lesson too. What should the goal be in warmies? Because if anybody who's watched beer league warmies, everybody's just trying to snizzle, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? It's so funny because I feel like when I play beer league now, the goalies probably love me more than anything, because I come around high, I sling it hard, but I just sling it at your glove or your blocker. There's nothing worse than, obviously I can't relate to beer league players, but I think back to my career as a goalie. I haven't played beer league hockey as a goalie yet. You never know, right? I haven't hit rock bottom completely.
E-bug.
And but what I will say, in an NHL warm-up, when a guy comes around and like does a little muffin on you because he's scared to shoot at you, it doesn't do any good for me either. Like, you want a guy that shoots it hard and crisp. Usually the big defensemen were the best, because they they just stay in their lane. They're just going to pound it hard at your blocker, at your glove. You knew what was coming. And that's what's nice. But in this situation, obviously, I'm sure no one feels worse than Willie Nylander. But for Anthony Stolarz, it's just the cost of business. You're an NHL goalie. Pucks are going to hit you. You got to stay healthy. And it feels like this year, he just can't. It seems like no matter what it is, he's always banged up.
So with everything we've talked about, going back to the head coach in Craig Berube and all the chatter kind of surrounding him, what's your gut or what's your read on the situation? Do you think that it's in the Leafs' best interest to make a change behind the bench, or where do you stand on their head coaching position? Is this going to be Chiefs' final ride here?
I don't know. Like, what does that change, right? Like, where does the problem start and end with
exactly,
Chief, right? Like, again, you go back and you look at, the Marner situation. Like, they don't replace him. They replace him with, Dakota Joshua and Nicholas Waugh, like guys that just were big and slow, and they thought they could be the Florida Panthers without getting to the playoffs, right? Like, trying to add some more size and grit. And then you start to think about, like, hey, what does the future hold? Like, what is the next coach? Like, where is it going to get made up from, right? And I start to look at their back end, right? Like, Morgan Rielly, like, guy's a guaranteed -2 almost every game, right? It's been tough to watch, and I think he's served his purpose. He's done great. And then you start to look at these younger back ends on other teams. You look at Cole Hudson, you look at Matthew Schaefer, you look at Makar and Quinn Hughes. He's like mobile, offensive, like well-talented first pairing defenseman. And where is that in their lineup, right? I think they rely a lot on just like bigger size. Like they thought they could just beef it up. And again, it's a copycat league and you want to be big and you want to be able to grind through the playoffs, but you got to make the playoffs as well too. And I think that's the trickiest part right now, trying to manage the NHL, is like, you got to score to win and be good in the playoffs, but then you got to be like big enough and tough enough and gritty enough to win in the playoffs. And it's hard to manage both, right? And I think that's where the Leafs are at. And I don't think it's necessarily the coaching issue. I think it's just like a personnel issue of where they've been. And they didn't get many saves this year. I thought Stolarz struggled. Woll at times was good, and the inconsistency in defense, it's just ugly all around. I don't know what the answer is, but if you're going to miss the playoffs, you might as well miss by a bunch so you get a better draft pick.
Oh, don't get us started in that conversation. But
it triggered Nick on this one.
Specifically, I don't want to be triggered anymore with the whole picks, because even if they get the top 5 pick this year, it means unprotected the next couple of years, and I just hate the sound of that because I don't believe in this team next season. I mean, regardless of what they do this summer, it's going to be difficult work. But a big topic of focus this summer will be the crease. How would you play things out if you were the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, knowing they have 4 pretty capable guys? One, we really haven't seen an Akhtyamov in the NHL. Hildeby's had a good season. The other 2 have been banged up a lot. But how would you play it? Who would you keep? Who would you try to sell?
I think if you could move Stolarz, you move him. You know what I mean? He is a guy that has been a very proven backup, and he can play in that role. He's had, to go from being a 25-game goalie to being a 50-game goalie is another world. And it's something that I went through, and it's something that is very, very difficult to do as you age, right? The game doesn't get any easier. And then you think about the amount of effort and energy that goes into playing a game. And now you're like, okay, well, you've mastered that. Now you got to play 3 times a week, or you got to play 4. Like it's just really, really hard to sustain. And it's a unique position where guys with a lot of athleticism to play that much, it's tough. So I think for them, if you could move Stolarz and get a return, or even just get off him, I think Hildeby's ready to be a backup. I think Joseph Woll is still your guy, but he's got to be protected. And again, it's not necessarily like Joseph Woll's bad, but like you look at the game the other night against Ottawa. That's like you're playing the Ottawa Senators, man. That's like an Ontario matchup. Like it should be a prideful game. And I don't know what the show ended up, 46 or 44-14. Like it's just ugly in the sense of like it's deflating, I think, from a team and a group. But I do believe Joseph Woll is your guy. I can't say I know enough about the youngster coming up, the Russian. Is he Russian, right? And I think for him, like a year of being the guy will be important. And Hildeby is a bit of a project. I think he's proven that he can play as that backup role in Toronto, in my personal opinion.
And lastly, I know you got to run, but curious to get the perspective of a former player. I know the media and fans have to talk about shutting guys down, and maybe we'll have that conversation here with Anthony Stolarz after the recall emergency basis for Dennis Hildeby on this Monday. But do guys even think about that? How does the conversation even start when trying to shut guys down? I know we're having that convo on a daily basis about Matthew Nyes right now.
Yeah, I don't think guys want to be shut down. It's different if you're like late in your career and you know that like extending a season like this where you're not going to be able to win anything, you obviously would rather get healthy. If you need a surgery, you'd rather get ahead of it now. But for some of these guys, majority of players want to come back healthy and they want to finish the year healthy, because then you go into your summer healthy and then you can go into your training program healthy. Like there's so much more that goes into it. And I think a lot of guys, as much as we knock guys and they're soft and they make too much money and yada, 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 the fact is a lot of these guys are prideful, right? This is still a sport that is dominated by guys that want to win. They want to be healthy. They want to be difference makers. So I always err on the side of that, but everything being equal, like having a player go into summer healthy versus hurt is a big difference as you start to build toward the next season.
All right, Huts, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for your time today. And I guess you'll be on DFO Live today. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, DFO Live at noon, buddy, every day. I got a real job now. Things are I'm actually at my parents' house. I got kicked out of my house, so they were doing something at my house. So I'm in my basement. They got the shrine up, a couple jerseys up there. So at least I'm at my number one fan's house, we can say.
Nice.
You remember that you played in the NHL. I want that Sabres jersey, man. You got to find me a signed Sabres jersey for my condo, okay?
Yeah, there we go. I'm on it. I'll get on it. There, that's on my to-do list, right at the top, Nicky boy.
Priority.
Thank you, bud. Take care.
Yeah.
See you guys.
There's Carter Hutton. I always give him grief, but I shouldn't. I mean, he got the contract. It was in front of him. Then he signed it with the Buffalo Sabres, who, Dave, are a crazy-ass story. Every night I watch that team.
Yeah.
Every night they win, notwithstanding a crazy game against Anaheim yesterday. But it really, you always look for that spark. Buffalo's had that spark for like 4 or 5 months right now. Would you be shocked at all if the Sabres just go on and win a Stanley Cup this season? I know I wouldn't.
Shocked, no. Surprised, yeah. The run
I think
is
the East
great.
is wide open.
Yeah, I think it is too, but I don't think it matters because you've got Colorado to deal with. I know the president. I don't know what the stat is. What, 2 in the last 15 years? The President's Trophy team has won the Stanley Cup or something like that. But just Colorado's so good when they get healthy. It's just so deep. Like you can throw Nas onto as your third line center, and then you've got McKinnon, Nelson, Kadri, and then either Waugh or Drury as your 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. Like Colorado is hands down the favorite to me. I'm not buying Carolina. I'm not buying, most of these other teams. Tampa is probably the scariest one for me because they can flip that on. But I mean, look, the Sabres round 2, at least.
Yeah.
So it'll probably end up being Buffalo, Tampa in the second round. And that's going to be a hell of a great series. So, I mean, sign me up for that one with all the fireworks. But I don't know. I like Buffalo. I like the story. I like everything. I like that they're back on track. Wouldn't surprise me if they go on a crazy run. So we'll see. We'll see what they do.
WM.98, you're a clown, David. Nice.
Thank you.
So we got some fans on YouTube here today.
Sick. Awesome, buddy. Great.
So
come down to the
random.
show. Yeah,
So
it's okay. Hey, whatever. Can he juggle? I haven't added that to my mix yet. Let's see if he can juggle.
I don't know what Dave has said in the last 38 minutes that would have somebody say, hey, you're a clown. Thank you for the contribution, says Justin Bennett. You're so right. That's really good stuff. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Back to the Maple Leafs. I'm right there with you, by the way. I think the Eastern Conference is wide open. Even a sneaky team like Montreal, it seems like every time the Habs make the playoffs, they do something significant. Thought they had a good fight, good showing last year. They're a better team this year. Michael Hayes is still going to be in the mix some point in time over the next couple of weeks. But I think for the Maple Leafs perspective, I'm trying to look at some of the positive notes to finish up the season. And Easton Cowan gets his first career 2-point outing over the weekend. But we talked a bit about the commentary from Craig Berube. But from a Leafs perspective, should they be happy with the development of Easton Cowan so far in his rookie season?
Well, I want to see more. I'm more ice time from him, or give him more ice time, give him more responsibility. Like that's what they should be doing down the stretch here. I don't know what his minute intake or his logs were the last couple of games, but I'd like to be able to see him to keep going, keep pushing it, give him that responsibility, lock him onto a line, and let that line roll for the rest of the season. Go from there, or maybe put him with somebody, at least one guy that he's going to roll with next season, or likely to roll with next season, or at least that's the plan. Obviously, we'll see what the coaching situation is like, but put him with Nyes. See if those guys can build something over the last 11 games of the regular season, or keep him with JT or whoever. But give him that consistency, because I think he's going to be a really good player. I think he's going to be a really good hockey player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But you want to see that start to develop now. And the roller coaster ride that he had that season, I don't think helped him very much. But, if anything, it's shown for a young player that his he can go through these tough little kind of tests and still go out there and perform, still go out there and throw the body, still do what he needs to do. Just give him more ice time. Let's see what he can really do down the stretch. Like that would be my plan for him. Find somebody, at least one guy that he's going to roll with, or the plan is see if they can build chemistry or strengthen their chemistry in the final 11 games of the season. That's what I'd like to see with him.
Honestly, part of me wants this guy away from the toxicity of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I felt that way for a large period of time. Like, if as soon as they knew that they weren't going to compete for a playoff spot, I'd send him to the American Hockey League, get some reps. And there's never such thing as a prospect that's done too much in the AHL and is overripe. I just think you run the risk of now a red hot head coach who knows he's done, he's cooked, and he's going to make some comments and indirect or whatever they are in the media. And I think it's really going to run on the psyche of the player. And I think I want Easton Cowan feeling good about life to finish up his season, Dave.
I don't know, man. Like, how soft are these guys if that's the case?
They're soft.
Right.
That's why I'm saying this. They're soft.
Well, fucking toughen up, right? Like, this is the NHL.
Way, yeah.
Well, it does in some circumstances. You can't pussyfoot around these guys all the time. You've got to be able to give them a little bit of tough love, and they've got to be able to handle some of that heat. You want to be a pro in the National Hockey League, you got to handle some of that shit. And here's the thing. I don't think Easton Cowan's the kind of guy that's going to sit there and go, woe is me, and start sulking because of certain comments that get made every now and again. So I think that this is a good thing for him. This is part of the learning process in the NHL. And at a young age, in his first full season, I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. What I didn't like and haven't liked is the inconsistency in how his deployment has been. So give him that consistency down the stretch, and then he can go to the A after and go deal with the Marlies after the Toronto Maple Leaf season is over with and handle all that stuff. That's fine. But you want to see him adjust to the National Hockey League level. We know what he's capable of. We know he's going to get better. This is more so for him to learn who he's up against. You know, you got to take that into account as well. Who you're playing against, get through these reps over the last 11 games, learn from that, mental note it going into next season and on, who you're playing against, other guys' tendencies, how you can play against it, and go from there and take in a little bit of this tough love. I don't think it's affecting him that much because I think he's got the right head for this.
I think he's a byproduct of this market too. I think you got to be realistic on where this is trending for Easton Cowan. He's not a top line winger. He's a middle six guy. I think at best, in my opinion, he's a second line winger.
Yeah, and that's okay. But give him that consistency where he can play at that level. I think he's going to top out as well as a legit second line player, and that's good. That's okay. You need those guys because, like I said, 4 top 6 forwards. Maybe now you got 5. Because you got that guy in your own. He's right there. So if he's your second line guy, cool. He's your second line player. Now you've got 3 second line players, 2 first line guys. Now you can focus in on one area. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. It's just been such a disappointing season. And I know we had this convo a lot last summer, what our expectation was for Easton Cowan. He's probably exceeded it for me, to be honest, just because I didn't expect him to get as many reps and games in the NHL as he has. But it really has felt all season long that they're really against putting this guy in the AHL. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather he go to the AHL, play incredible minutes in the top 6, be their go-to star and guy, rack up points, goals. I mean, do exactly what he did at junior hockey and gain that momentum into camp next year, as opposed to just sulking away, playing out the slate with guys who are not motivated and don't want to be out there right now. That's all I'm saying. Like, I just don't think it's a really good environment to succeed if you're Easton Cowan, a younger player in this league.
I get that. I do. But I think his personality and the makeup of this player, I don't think he's going to get sucked into that woe is me bullshit attitude that seems to be plaguing this team. Like, I think he's the first full season in the NHL. He's a little bit jacked up about it, as he should be. And this is part of the learning curve. But I think for him, again, personality wise, just the type of guy that he is, he's going to be taking in all the other things. He's going to be educating himself in different areas. So I think that's also part of the reason, I think the Leafs have recognized this, why you keep him up. So that he can learn. It's not just learning your own game. It's learning how to play against others. That's what I meant earlier by trying to identify who you're playing against and what some of their tendencies are. So you know this already going into next season. Like, that's just as valuable to a certain degree as honing in your own skills. Do that, do both, and then go to the A in the playoffs and go from there. But I don't think he's going to just because he's sitting there looking around the dressing room after another loss and everybody's, the big guys are kind of sulking or whatever it is, or have that type of mentality. I don't see that from him. So I don't think that's going to be beat into him. I don't view that as a negative right now because of that play. Like, not everybody has that mindset. Not everybody has that personality. So you got to treat guys differently, and everything is situational. But I think for him, I totally get what you're saying. And I think for some other guys, it would be much more valuable to go to the A, succeed, then come in next season fresh. I think for Easton, just the type of dude that he is, I don't think that shit affects him as much.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that front. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's dive into Morgan Rielly. I believe back on the ice for practice, didn't play over the weekend on Saturday against Ottawa, lower body injury. I was at that game just like you on Friday. A lot of mistakes. He's just a defensive nightmare. He gets some points offensively, but where is this trending? Are we seeing the final games in the blue and white for Morgan Rielly?
I wouldn't be shocked. I think I mentioned this before. The week of the trade deadline, his name popped up a few times. There was at least one team in which Toronto had a discussion with involving Morgan Rielly. I don't think it escalated to a point where it got close, but I know there was that conversation. And I think that future conversation is going to happen this offseason and shortly after their season is done. Maybe in cleanups and maybe a little bit after. But I do think that Toronto's going to explore a variety of different options this summer. And I think it includes the possibility of trading Morgan Rielly. And I'd be shocked, quite frankly, if they don't go that route in terms of exploring. Now, obviously, it takes two to tango and all that stuff. And it would be a little bit difficult. Like, you're not trading Morgan Rielly and bringing back a premium. So manage the expectations if he is moved. But I don't see a scenario where the Leafs don't explore this.
They have to. The writing's been on the wall for the last couple of years, and everything comes out of last season where there were strong conversations had between Brad Treliving and the player. He was in better shape coming back to camp. He just can't play defense anymore. And then you add that to the way this team plays defense to begin with, and he sticks out. To me, that's the biggest story is like they didn't make one change in the blue line. They come back with a blue line that was really effective last year, and it just hasn't worked out. And so do you get the sense that when they do, like, regardless of what they do with Rielly, if it's a trade, will they have to, eat money? Is that like a foregone conclusion? They'll have to do that or no?
Have to? No. I think it'll depend on what the overall deal is going to kind of be. But look, Morgan Rielly playing 17 minutes a night at $7.5 million as a 2-3 defenseman, there's value there. It's just where he is right now on this team as quasi number one. OEL's been their best defenseman this season. We all know that. I'm not talking about the best defenseman. I'm talking about deployment. It doesn't fit. You put him on a different team with other guys in front of him where he can kind of just be the mobile guy playing with that defensive-minded type of player on a second pair. There's value there at 7.5, the way that the salary cap is going. So I don't think it's a necessity to eat on this contract. And I know that wasn't part of the discussion with that one team that they talked to, ahead of the deadline. So that would surprise me more than him actually getting traded, that if there is retention on this, on that contract. Depends on the overall deal itself, but that would surprise me more than him actually getting traded, because him getting traded wouldn't surprise me. It's just a matter of them trying to find the right fit, and he has full control, so he'll be able to dictate, kind of where he ends up if that does happen.
He doesn't strike me as a guy either that is going to go out kicking and screaming. I think Morgan Rielly would be the first to probably admit, if you were to ask him right now, it's probably time for a change. Do you get any sense would be pushback, like, hey, I don't want to go anywhere right now?
I don't know about anywhere. I think there'd be an openness, but it's going to be, where he wants to. Like, and guys do, like Vinny Trocheck didn't want to get traded west because he wanted to stay closer to family in the East. Yeah. Colton Parayko didn't want to go to Buffalo/East. If he's open to a move, it's out west. So, guys have that. The theory is that if Morgan is moved, he'd want to be out west. So we'll see what options there are. I don't know that definitively. Again, that's the theory. But they have to have that conversation. And, he may turn around and say, look, I only want to go to 3 teams. If you're going to move me, these are the 3 options I'll waive my no movement clause for. And it may be 10, maybe 15, but like he has that ability because it's in his right contractually to either lay out the options or say no options. I want to stay. Now, Leafs can certainly try to make his life a little bit difficult there or bumpy, which isn't the best thing, to kind of do. But I think if push comes to shove, I think they can find a solution, at least in a sense of providing Toronto with options. But again, they'll have that. I believe they're going to have a conversation along those lines at some point after the season wraps.
My head just keeps going back to the San Jose Sharks making too much sense for this not to happen. I just think you look at what their blue line, I think they have 2 guys signed after this season. They've needed for like 3 or 4 years, like a puck moving defenseman to run their power play that continues. I know they've had various options in that sort of, that setting right now, but Morgan Rielly is a guy who can really contribute and produce alongside like an Eklund, a Celebrini. Like I think he'd fit I think you talk about fits right now. I think Morgan Rielly would fit really, really well with what San Jose's building. And have you heard anything in terms of pushback on like San Jose being a potential suitor? Like I think it would just make a lot of sense, no?
Yeah, I could see San Jose being an option there. I could see them. I could see the Anaheim Ducks as well. I could see both. I mean, Anaheim, they brought in, John Carlson, and we'll see what the future holds there. They're going to try to sign him to an extension. Right. And he's having a hell of a season. But I could see both of those teams being options, for Morgan Rielly, or at least having interest now that they're neither of them are the teams. Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
They could use some depth on that back end, and he doesn't necessarily have to be the primary. They can kind of do that by committee a little bit with some of the younger guys that they have coming up, but you also want that veteran presence on a younger team with a younger blue line. San Jose's got Dmitry Orlov signed for 1 more year. They've got Dickinson, and then Muka Madula is an RFA, I believe, so he's controllable. So they effectively have 3 guys on that back end. Mario Ferrero is going to be a UFA. The Sharks have expressed interest in a midterm type of contract. They don't want to go long, so we'll see what happens, there in the summer. But Desharnais is a free agent. Lilgren's a free agent. Excuse me, he was traded to Washington. I meant Klingberg and Leddy. So they're going to want to shore up that blue line. I could certainly see San Jose being an option. I could see the Ducks. I could see probably a few teams. But again, it'll be up to him what he wants to do.
Yeah, just my thinking too. Darren Radish, I think if he gets to market, I think San Jose that could make a lot of sense too. I think that team, probably their rebuild has been expedited a bit with what they put together this season, and especially on their blue line, there's just so many openings and there's just different possibilities when it comes to that Sharks blue line, in my opinion. But again, circling back on Rielly, I just think he makes a lot of sense for that team, what they're trying to build here.
Yeah, well, I mean, on Radish, you're going to have a number of teams that are going to look at him, and he wants that Mosier contract, right? 6 times 6, something along those lines.
Does he?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, dude's over a point a game. He had he had what, 35 and 39 points the previous 2 years. This year's been obviously an explosion. So it might be a little aggressive to go that route, but we'll see. And I heard you. Toronto. I mean, if you're moving Morgan Rielly out, I could certainly see them looking at retooling that blue line a little bit. So whether it's a Radish or Ferrero or whomever else might be available, I think they're going to explore a number of different options here. And if I'm the Leafs, I'm looking at moving Morgan out and trying to bring in a forward. Probably not getting a second line type player for him, maybe, or a second line capable type guy. But I'd look at a mid-6 type of player. Just to move on from this, trying to regain a few more assets as part of that contract and look to fill the hole elsewhere.
This is random, but Brandon Montour, is he going anywhere in Seattle? Like, that's the one guy I'm all over if I'm the Leafs this summer.
I'd be surprised, quite frankly.
I'd make a call.
Yeah, I mean, you make the call. Jason Botterill may not pick up, but their GM, but Yeah, I mean, and look, if Montour is going to be available, I think a lot of different teams are going to poke around on his availability too. So
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, or Morgan Rielly, can you get Shane Wright out of Seattle? Hasn't worked out there. My guess is probably not, but that's also worth a call.
Creativity is the name of the game. And I just, firstly, I want to know who the fuck the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs is. And then you can sort of pick apart the pieces from there. At the Leafs Nation 4-1, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and support us sick. It's got a couple super chats to get to before we wrap here. MRush89 writes in, if Matthias scores 51 points, we lose a second, take him off the PP and push him down the lineup. I think he's at like 35 points. They have 11 games left. I don't see him getting 16 points or whatever it is over the last 11 games. So I think they'll be fine with that. He says, nice. Willie should be shelved. Need to lose. Bring up a Nylander, Villeneuve, Hames, see what we got. Poor management. You get the sense anything's coming down the pipeline there when it comes to sitting guys or load management the way Florida's doing things, or shutting guys down outright here?
I mean, look, I think it should, personally. I would do it. I don't know if they're going to, and I haven't heard that they will, but I mean, I would. Like we know that Nyes has been dealing with something all season. I know you and I both know what it is, but out of respect, I'm not going to say it.
We've said it already. So. It's a knee thing. He came out and said it.
Oh, he did say, okay. I didn't even know he acknowledged it. Okay. Yeah, it's been nagging all season. So he doesn't need surgery on it. Now that I can talk about it. He doesn't need surgery on this. He needs time off. And I would much rather utilize this time now and have him have a proper full off season to train when he's back to training, than wait until next month and then start that process. I personally would start it now. But I don't know if they've had that conversation with him. I think Willie's banged up as well. I would have that conversation with him too. And not just solely for the purpose of trying to get a top 5 pick, because no in Toronto, they'll get like the 4th overall. 2 other teams will win the lottery and they'll fall to 6th. Then they'll go to Boston anyway. So more so just to prep for next season, in getting ready for next season. Like that's where my head would be at. But I honestly, I haven't heard that they plan on doing any of that. Maybe they have. I'm not aware of it, but I haven't heard it.
J-Rock12, thank you for the super chat. Nick, unprotected picks are fine. Take the top 5. At least will be better in the upcoming years. Give Bruins, Flyers, mid-round picks. Here's love for sick kids. Appreciate that. I love your confidence too. I think there's just this perception in this market that, boom, they're just going to flip the script and this team's going to make the playoffs next year and everything's going to just be fantastic. Well, for starters, go look at the free agent crop. And number 2, what does this team have to trade if they're not going to trade Nylander and Matthews to get themselves back in a conversation to make the playoffs? You need guys to exceed expectations. I look at this roster. It's really flawed. It's really slow. And there's just too much surgery to be had, to be done here, Dave. I don't know how they're getting back in this convo, but every year this happens where I think it's easier than people think to get back into the playoff picture. And there's so many random things that happen along the way too, right?
Yeah. And this whole surgery nonsense and whatnot, like too much, I don't buy that. You put the right pieces together, you can go on a run. Look at Vegas. First year in the Stanley, first year in the league, they go to the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Or the final, excuse me. So you can construct, but you got to be bold. You got to be bold, and you can't be afraid to make, certain moves. And I think this will be a relatively, whether it works or not. I mean, I don't have a freaking crystal ball. We'll find out. But I do think there are some moves that can be made here to put this team back on track. They're better than they're better than what the hell they've shown this season. So figure out your summer, get some other pieces in place, make some moves that are necessary and that are going to, some of them are going to require tough decisions, and then go into next season, filling the holes that need to be filled. You're right. Speed is one of them. They tried to load up size-wise. It's one, like the copycat shit works if you're doing it the right way. Like just because you're bringing in a couple big bodies, that's not going to solve everything. You've got to have the skill to complement the big body element. And you got to marry the two, and that's what they got to figure out this summer in some fashion.
I love this. Francisco Pinto saying Pelly cutting Wi-Fi because Dave's Wi-Fi is all over the map today. It's time now for the last call brought to you by Bet365. We're blaming it on Pelly, Dave. Don't worry. Tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid, ready to move on to the next puck drop. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals, at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you'll have to wait around for. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Just one game on the NHL slate tonight. It's the Rangers and the Ottawa Senators. Rangers in the back-to-back. We think it's going to be Shesterkin in that one, but I'm going to play Ottawa in regulation. I still think the Sens have a chance of making the playoffs here.
Yeah, I don't, but I like the Sens tonight because it's the friggin' Rangers. Yeah, it's the only game on sched, but I think it's too little, too late for Ottawa. I overall for the season, but yeah, I'm with you. I like them tonight. I take them in Reg 2. I'll take them on the puck line tonight because I don't think the Rangers got it.
Yeah, they suck. They really do suck. Dave, great job today, and Jay Rosehill's back in the mix tomorrow, and another matchup with Fraser Minton and the Boston Bruins. Can't wait for tomorrow's edition of Leafs Morning Take. Thanks for this today.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Beautiful. That is Dave Pagnotta. Thank you to everybody. The chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to check out theleafsnation.com. As mentioned, Jay Rosehill back in the mix for the Tuesday edition. So looking forward to seeing what he thought about the weekend and looking ahead to 11 games to go here for this Maple Leafs team. Thank you to producer Vic. For Dave Pagnotta, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.